Right.
Pick
yeah.
us up in those like big black cars from the airport. And like, I'm like, dude, I'm in America.
Right.
Like on not on my dollar. This is like my first trip.
Where was that?
Paid
Was it that in LA or was it somewhere else?
That was in Miami.
In Miami.
Put us up in the Mondrian. Everything paid.
Was that your first time to Miami too?
That wasn't my first time.
She was like, nah, boy, I've been there. With that being said, you spent a lot of time there. You were a coach, not only a coach, a head coach. We both made it all the way into corporate, right? But then you made a decision. You decided, like, I want to go back to building my brand and doing my thing. Can you talk me a little bit through that time? Because we've had like some conversation, but never really a deep dive into like what you were thinking, what was going on in your mind. What's up, coaches? Welcome to Your Coach's Coach. I am your host, Coach Justin Blackwell. For those of you who don't know me, I'm a NASM certified personal trainer, a boxing coach, as well as a father of two, based out here in Los Angeles, California. I created this podcast to help you gain insight on how successful coaches, both established and up and coming, have navigated and continue to navigate their world of sports, fitness, and movement. You're going to hear some really raw stories and some really incredible journeys on this podcast, and I hope you find this podcast valuable, useful, and entertaining. If you do, please like, subscribe, and share. Without further ado, let's get into today's episode. So first and foremost,
yes,
today is a great, great day. I have Coach Lany in the building, and we're not here to fuck spiders, mate.
Not here to fuck spiders, right?
Nah, we'll explain that later. It's okay, inside joke. But first of all, welcome to Your Coach's Coach. I'm your host, Coach Justin Blackwell. And again, I am joined here today with Coach Lany, a.k.a. Trained by Lany, a.k.a. Coach Lons, who, for those of you who don't know her, is probably one of the hardest working like fitness professionals I've had the honor to work with. And which is why I really wanted her up here and wanted you up here, was because I think you've just had this really incredible like intentionality like about your career and like the things that you do and the way you move and the hard work that's going on behind the scenes. So I just really wanted to touch on that today. So first of all, I appreciate you for coming.
I am honored, Justin.
Well, thank you. And it's raining today. She drove through the pouring rain and LA rain. You know,
every day's a fight, you know?
Every day is a fight. Luckily, it's
challenges.
Luckily, it's a little holiday today, so not too much traffic, but
yeah,
But anyways, thank you for showing up. I appreciate you.
Of course.
So as I always like to do with every guest so far is, for those that don't know you, I just want to start with the beginning of the story.
Yes.
Who is Coach Lons and how far back you want to go is totally up to you. But I think the biggest key is just, what was life like growing up? Who was Lany before Trained by Lany? And like, what was life like? Where are you from?
Before Trained by Lany. All right. So once upon a time, so I'm Australian, obviously. I grew up in Australia. I actually was born in Romania, but my family migrated to Australia when I was 1. So I am Australian cultured.
Okay.
I start from primary school to high school, I was always really like excited and good at sports.
Yeah.
And, in high school, I excelled in sports and dance. And
what sports did you play, by the way, Lons?
I did a lot of like track and field.
Okay.
Funny thing, I was great at discus, shot put, all the throwing sports.
Oh, really?
Who would have thought?
That makes a lot of sense.
Makes a lot of sense.
Yeah.
And basketball, touch footy, and dance.
Wait, touch 40?
Touch footy.
Touch footy.
Touch football.
Oh, that's what you guys call it?
Yeah.
So we're going to hear a lot of terms today that we may have to work through, but trust me, they're all good to listen to. So touch footy. Okay. Touch football.
Touch football.
Okay. All right. Talk to me a little bit more. What else was life like growing up? What was the times like back then? Just bring us back to that time. What was, you did sports. What else happened?
What else happened? I feel like I was a pretty cool kid. I was friends with everyone in my grade.
Yeah. I could see that.
Yeah, I was pretty cool. I remember leaving school and my parents were very, very big on education.
Okay.
I was like, you have to go to university, you have to get a bachelor's degree. Like this was like a non-negotiable.
For sure.
And I was, again, really good at sport and dance, and I just like to do what I I like to do what I'm good at.
Right.
I wasn't that great at maths or like English or,
Same.
yeah.
Yeah. Was never my thing.
So then, so I actually wanted to go into school for dance, but I missed the submission cutoff.
Okay.
And then I really was into exercise science and sport and nutrition.
Okay.
But I didn't know which one to dive into. So I ended up doing a course that was exercise science and sport nutrition. And I just figured that maybe I could dive into one or the other.
Right. Just open up possibilities.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So then I went to university and I got my bachelor's degree, and I absolutely was like really obsessed with like athletic performance and just learning about the body, physiology, anatomy. And then I really wanted to be a strength conditioning coach. I had this like dream of like, not like a dream, but like an idea that I wanted to work with athletes.
Right.
So I thought that was like really cool.
Yeah.
And, it's just easy to train athletes. You just tell them, hey, do this, and they say yes.
Right. Yeah. There's not all that foundational work that usually has to happen. It's kind of like, this is what I need you to do. And when you tell them like, load the hip, they know what that means, stuff like that. Right. Yeah.
And that's like what they taught us and like how they taught us in university, and like, VO2 max or 1 rep max, or, just very specific goals and how to program for them.
Yeah.
But then I started doing my prac hours. I did prac hours at like a local gym. I worked with youth athletes. I worked with a football team at the time. And when I was working—
And are we talking real football or are we talking soccer football?
We're talking
Sorry for anybody that was offended by that. That's not what I meant. What I meant was, are we talking American football or real football?
Rugby league.
Rugby. Okay.
Australia.
Okay. Understood.
NRL. So I was working with the feeder team. So that is the team like just under like the city team. Okay. So there's like Brisbane Broncos. There's like city teams, which is like what's like a city team? Like Kansas.
Okay.
So like just the level underneath.
Yeah. Is it kind of like in baseball, they have what they call like feeder leagues, I guess?
Yes.
Right. So a lot of these guys end up going to the pro leagues.
Yes.
Right. Okay, cool.
So pretty like elite level.
Yeah. Usually high level athletes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I was working with them, and I was working with a strength conditioning coach, and I'm asking him questions like, I want to be a strength conditioning coach one day. Like, how do I do it? What does that look like? And then he was like, it's a lot of free hours, a lot of free time. You're shadowing, you're pretty much just, it's a very long
process.
Very long process.
Yeah.
And, you got to start small, and like, you're lucky if you get to like any kind of like high level sporting team.
Yeah.
And I was like, okay. I was like, okay, yeah, cool. Yeah. And then he also said that because I'm a woman, that I would only be able to work with female athletes because women in a man's sport will not be respected as a coach. And I was like, okay.
It's interesting. How did that make you feel?
I was like, well, I don't want to just only work with one demographic.
Right.
I want it to be open, and like maybe I work with this team and that team, or different sports.
Do you think that's was that just like a sign of the times? Like, do you think that maybe is different now, or do you think that holds true?
It's for sure different now.
Very different now.
But then I feel like that was 100%.
Just it was true at that point. Yeah.
I believed him anyway. I was like, okay, well, I don't want to do this if it's going to be like that.
Yeah.
Or if I'm always going to have to like try so hard, or like it takes me 30 years to get to where I want to be.
Right. And you're probably looking around at the landscape like, he is telling the truth.
Yeah.
Right.
I'm looking around. I'm the only female in the room.
Yeah. Yeah. But what type of things were you learning there? Because that had to be like a super cool experience to work with, again, elite athletes. Yes. You're, exercise science major. So all the stuff that you've been learning about, you're now seeing at the high, like really one of the highest levels that you can see it at. So talk to me a little bit about like what things you just picked up there that maybe you use nowadays. Like,
just like really cool strength conditioning drills.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's pretty much it. Just like really cool strength and conditioning drills, and how the coaches talk to the athletes, and how the athletes, I guess, take direction.
Right.
Like pretty much learning the athletic mindset. Like you tell them what they need to do to achieve the goal, and they literally just do it.
Yeah.
Like very simple.
Very straightforward.
Meanwhile, doing prac hours at a gym, it's like you're like begging someone to do 10 push-ups and like telling them why it's beneficial for them to do 10 push-ups, like completely different mindset.
Right. An athlete is typically self-motivated, especially at high levels.
Exactly.
Right. They want to get better. They don't want to be the slowest, man or woman on the field. Like it's very,
they're so hungry and motivated.
Yeah. They're in the competitive world. Yeah. And training, training clients is definitely one of the more frustrating sides of
Yeah.
it, for sure.
Especially with, depending on what demographic you're working with.
Yeah.
And then even with the athletes though, I did notice like you're working so hard, like such detailed programming, such like full on training to only like be better at like this much. Like
Yeah.
the smallest little like increment
Right.
to like win the game or to be faster or to be more explosive and powerful.
Right.
So like all this hard work done, and you might only increase like this much.
I know, because they're almost
They're already
maxed
great.
out. Yeah, they're almost maxed out.
Yeah.
Dude, in rugby, I've never really dealt with any rugby players, but they're savage individuals, right? I mean,
Yeah.
the level of stress that they have to put on their body. I mean, it's similar to American football minus the pads,
Right.
right? I mean, obviously the sports and the rules are different, but just what they do, the impact that they're doing, the size of these guys. And I don't think people realize how big these individuals are.
Yeah, big boys.
They're big boys, right? On TV, they're all the same size, so they look kind of regular.
Yeah.
Then you see them in person, you're like, that's not a human.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, real rough.
Yeah.
And like meanwhile at this time, like NRL, which is rugby league, is like the biggest sport in Australia.
Okay.
So like if you're gonna be a strength and conditioning coach, you want to be like the best would be training with these guys.
Right.
So I feel like the difference with in Australia and America is not as many sports that are on a big screen.
Right.
You know, in America you got baseball, basketball, football.
Yeah, we have all the major worldwide leagues.
Yes.
Yeah.
I feel like ours is a bit more like one-on-one sports.
Okay.
Like swimming, tennis. Yeah.
Yeah. I've seen a lot of Australian Open.
Yeah.
Right? That's why. Yeah.
There you go.
That makes sense.
Look, you know something.
I know a few, you know what I mean? I check out, a couple of things here and there.
Yeah.
Okay, cool. So obviously this head coach, I imagine he was a head coach, or was he just one of the coaches?
One of the coaches.
Tells you. Yeah, he tells you.
And Australians are pretty straight up. Like, they're not like.
Yeah, he wasn't. It's not like he was talking down to you.
He's like, this is what's up. This is what it is. Like, you're either in or out. And I was kind of like, yeah, not for me.
Right.
I know. I really took it for like what it was.
Yeah, it wasn't like a down moment. It was just kind of like, okay, honest answer. Now I need to re-strategize.
Yeah, or just like think it through. Just see all the options.
Understood.
So then I was doing prac hours at a local gym.
Okay.
And then I was like, we shadow like other trainers and just kind of like see how it all goes down.
Yeah.
And I realized the different impact with the everyday person versus the elite athlete, like how much you could make them grow in 1 year and what a difference and impact you can make in their lives.
Right.
And I was like, whoa, that's pretty like the stories I heard, the testimonials I heard from the trainers talking about their clients. I was like, wow, it's pretty amazing.
Yeah.
And I was like, that's like very instant gratification too.
Yeah, it's fulfilling. I talk about that all the time. As coaches, like there's definitely a selfish side to this. We love to see people grow, and it makes us feel good. It really does motivate us.
Yes.
For sure.
And to be a part of that. And also like the money that they were making an hour, I was like,
sold.
Straight out of university, like making, I think even $60 an hour straight out of like your first job out of like school. Like that's pretty good.
Yeah. Yeah.
Strength condition coaches, you're working free for like 10 years.
Oh, snap.
Well, I mean, that's what I thought.
Yeah, right.
That's what I got told at the time.
Yeah, you're like, listen, I don't get paid for 10, so I'm going to owe you a few. But no, that makes a lot of sense. And once you like see good trainers too, even decent trainers, and they're making good money, you start to see the vision. Like if I can just have 10 clients, 15 clients, 20 clients.
Yeah, you do the numbers.
Yeah.
But it was funny because at the time when I figured out, I think I want to go into the fitness world.
Mm-hmm.
And people would ask me, what you do, or are you a personal trainer? I was a bit like, I went to university for 4 years.
Right.
I'm not a personal trainer.
Like I studied exercise science, right?
Because all these other trainers do like 6-month courses and they're, personal trainers. So it felt very like interesting, like in an ego way of like, the level, I guess.
Yeah.
Or the title.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. I mean, a 4-year degree. I mean, at the end of the day, right? Especially out here in LA, at least I can speak for LA. Like NASM was always kind of like a really, respected, title. You're a NASM trainer, but they were never the 4-year bachelor's degree in exercise science or kinesiology. The level, the depth of knowledge really is different, right? A NASM certified personal trainer, you get the certification, then you got to go learn. Whereas you spent 4 years or how long are you guys? 4 years. So you spend 4 years studying very in depth, schooling about the
Yeah.
body and exercise science and all that. So I can understand like why you felt like that a little
Yeah.
bit. So how do you kind of transition, and what kind of helps you get over that ego phase of it? Like when was that change kind of
Well, I was lucky that at the gym I was working with, everyone had the same background. They were
understood?
actually exercise physiologists.
Right.
So I actually learned a lot of them. And I was just really grateful to be in a gym that other trainers had similar or even more knowledge than I did.
Right.
So I was like, oh, okay, well, if you do it, then I can do it.
Right.
And we're cool,
Yeah.
you know?
Makes a lot of sense.
But now I'm like, yeah, I'm a personal trainer and I'm like proud. You know,
Yeah.
like I'm very,
Is
very
that
proud of like
is that
doing
a time thing, or is that an LA thing? Because I feel like in LA it's pretty commonplace to be
Yeah.
a personal trainer.
You know, me and Rico actually were having this conversation the other day. We're like, dude, we were doing this before it was cool. Like
Right.
before everyone wanted to be a trainer, before Instagram came out, before people are, uploading videos of like workouts
Yeah.
or, I was like, yeah, that's right.
Yeah.
It wasn't cool back then.
Yeah.
Like it was actually like, that's not a real job.
Right.
I mean, it probably still is to this day. People still don't recognize it as a real job
Yeah.
or like a full-time career.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't know. I think I think you're right. I think nowadays I was just talking about this with Lo actually. Like I think the market, the people that hire personal trainers and stuff, I think it's grown because of the internet, right? So
Mm-hmm.
I think people are more educated about fitness. There's definitely a bigger health conscious population, especially in a city like LA.
Yeah.
Whereas like in the 90s, when I thought about like the personal trainer, I thought about like the bald headed coach back in the day at the like
Mhm.
little rinky dink gym. Like there was kind of that
Yeah, like
stigma of what a
mhm.
personal trainer might be back in the day.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So talk to me about you've gotten this experience now up at these local
Mhm.
prac hours.
Mhm.
What's kind of the next phase of this this journey?
Yeah. So then I became a trainer at that gym and pretty much was there for 4 years until I decided I kept traveling overseas.
Yeah.
As an Australian, we like to travel. We like to travel for long periods of time. I just found myself traveling every year for like 1 to 2 months.
Oh snap!
Yeah.
Oh, you was out here just living the life. I don't think I've ever had a vacation that lasted more than 2 weeks.
Right. Well,
Now I know I'm doing it wrong. I got to follow my Aussie friends.
that's right.
1 to 2 months.
Yes.
All right.
Minimum.
Now I know.
Well, I mean, Australia is so far away from the world. So if you're going, you're staying there.
Right.
You can't do a quick like 3-day trip,
Yeah, you'd be in the air most of the time.
Yeah.
Yeah, for
And
sure.
the what do you call it? Jet lag.
Right. So what places were you like traveling to at this time?
I loved the US. So when I first visited LA, actually, I was like, ooh, I like it here.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
What sold you?
Individuality, people having big dreams, people being accepted for who they are.
Right.
And that I guess like anything is possible, as
Yeah.
corny as that sounds, but that's like the energy I felt.
Yeah.
And I was like, yeah,
Yeah.
I want to live here one day.
I feel that. And you feel it in LA too, right? Like I was just talking to Jess. We live in, especially in LA, we live in
Mhm.
one of the most hustle-centric cultures.
Hmm.
Everybody's trying to figure out their next big move and play. And there's something like infectious about that. Like, right, when
Yep.
you're in it, you see people
Mhm.
going for theirs. And there's
Yeah.
something motivating about that, I imagine. So I imagine you
Yes.
coming from Australia, you're like, dude, like I want to be a part of that shit.
Yeah, I'm like, wow, everyone's like really going for it.
Yeah.
And people are actually being supported.
Right.
I feel like back home, I'm from Brisbane, so it's like a bit more of a smaller town. It's a city, but it's like a bit of like smaller town mentality. So if I was
Right.
like, I want to be, I don't know, something not even that crazy. I want to be, Beyonce's personal trainer.
Right.
Like people be like, yeah, haha,
You're
like,
that's crazy.
yeah, that's crazy. But
Yeah.
I'll be like, hey, I want to be Beyonce's personal trainer. Like, great. What are you doing towards that? Like, what are
Right.
your action steps?
Yeah.
Actually, I might know someone,
Right. Yeah,
you know?
that's so funny. But it's also because they're not in Hollywood,
Yeah.
right? So that doesn't even like when I went to the Philippines, I was always blown away by they want to be, do you know what a jeepney is? You ever heard of that?
No, what was
So
that?
jeepney just means it's like a small like bus essentially,
Mhm.
and you drive around and you pick people up. And I remember going back and family would tell me like, oh, I just want to own a jeepney. And I really put in perspective like how
Mhm.
different our dreams and our goals are for
Oh,
based
right.
off where you live.
Mhm.
In Hollywood, you can think like that. Like,
Yeah,
dude,
true.
I'm going after Beyonce. I'm trying to be
Yeah, I'm
on the
going
jet with
top of the
her.
top.
Yeah, why not? Because it's so accessible.
Yeah.
And so it
You're
sounds like
right.
you made a conscious decision to be like, I need to put myself in a place where those things are accessible. I'm supported. Yeah. So then
Yeah.
what else? You were doing LA, anywhere else that kind of like motivated you, inspired you, that you traveled?
I was very much drawn to the US. But yeah, I went to, Europe, New Zealand, where else have I been? Mainly Europe and US around that time, in my
Okay.
early 20s.
Yeah. But
Big
that was good traveling.
Oh yeah.
Dude,
Great
sounds like fun.
times.
I
Great
know.
times.
I still need to go to Australia.
But I'm kind of like, how did I do all that when I was 21? Like, how am I still here? Like,
Yeah.
like
Who do you mean? Like just like financials, or like, are you just saying like
just like I'm alive.
yeah, oh yeah, yeah. You were just out and about, huh?
Yeah, yeah.
Going through some things.
Yeah.
I feel you.
Anyway, where was I going with this?
Just talking
Oh,
about like
yes.
traveling, yeah.
Oh yeah, so I came to a point when I was working and living in Brisbane, and everything was going super smooth. Clients are super smooth, income's great, lifestyle's great, everything's just great, which is great. But I just remember having conversations with my friends, they're like, so what's new? And I'm like, same old, like nothing
Nothing new.
much, but chill,
Yeah.
just everything just became very same day was lived out, and then we just wait till the weekend, and then we
And then
party,
live
and
for
then
the weekend.
yeah, we live for the weekend.
Um,
And I was like, I feel like there's more to do. There's more purpose to be had. I'm not living my full potential.
absolutely.
I want to like be like challenged
Yeah.
and like hustle.
Yeah.
I did hustle, but I didn't know like the real like
Right. Right. Actually talk to me a little bit about that. So,
Yeah.
I mean, obviously you said you had a good income, you were obviously able to travel, had good clientele.
Yeah.
Obviously you end up in LA, but what was it like building clientele in Australia? Like, was it a hard thing for you to do? Was it just a time thing? Like, how did you build your business over there? Because once we get to LA, I want to learn what that difference was. But just
Okay.
talk to me a little bit about Australia and like Brisbane specifically. What was it like building a business as a PT over there?
Yeah. Well, we all ran our individual business within the gym, so we paid the gym rent, and then we were able to, train whoever and charge however, whatever. Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. Which I really like that model.
Yeah.
Because it was like, well, whatever, you just gotta you gotta figure out, you gotta build it yourself, and you can do it, but you just gotta pay us
Right. Basically,
every week.
it taught you overhead. Like
Yes.
I have my overhead, and then anything above that is all me.
Yes,
Yeah.
exactly, which is really cool. So pretty much back then it was more like very much consulting, just like doing heaps of consulting, learning the sales process, learning how to give value in under like 1, 2, or 3 sessions, and then trying to sell a package. That was pretty much the business model.
Yeah. And were you doing like outreach yourself, or were clients coming in because of the physical location, and then you were able to like, funnel those guests and turn them into your clients? Like, how did that piece of it work for
So
you?
like people who just signed up, they would get like a free session,
Okay.
and then that would be us, like our opportunity to convert,
Yeah.
or just trying to chat to people in the gym.
Yeah.
That's pretty much it.
Any cutthroat, or was it pretty straightforward for you guys?
We're pretty straight. Yeah,
That's
we're
cool.
pretty
That's a cultural
respectful
thing.
of each other and
Yeah.
stuff. Yeah.
LA, man. I remember working, at the time I worked in sales, but I worked at like 24, and sales and everything was commission based. And so it was got a little dodgy at times.
Ooh,
Yeah. People trying to
competitive.
take clients and stuff. So I was always curious, just like how that worked. But it sounds like it was pretty
It was pretty good because all the trainers were pretty much nearly full as well.
right.
And so it wasn't like overdosed with trainers,
Right.
Yeah.
It had
Like it was
the right amount.
Yeah, the right amount.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's cool.
And we just had those little profiles on the wall with our headshots and like credentials, and that was it. There was no like, hey, Instagram.
Right. That's true. Yeah. You didn't have to do all
there
that
was no
marketing work.
famous like trainers or anything like that. It
Right,
was just,
Walked in, you
Yeah.
had your bio, whoever attracted you got a comp session or something, and then
Yeah, more
went through the
about like
process.
credentials, I guess. Yeah.
Yeah, that's interesting.
It's
Okay.
very interesting.
That is interesting. That's
I come
very.
to North America, no one asks me my resume.
I know. At the end of the day, they want somebody that looks like they know what they're doing.
Right.
Nowadays, right? We're very visual nowadays with
Mhm.
Instagram and social media. Everywhere. We're very visual. It looks cool.
Yeah.
I want to look like that,
Right.
as opposed to right. I want to know what they know.
Yeah.
It is very different.
Yeah, and I feel like in Australia, which is another cultural difference, is very much like, qualifications based.
Yeah.
That's very highly respected. Our standards are extremely high.
Yeah. And from what I understand, you went on to get a lot of like certification. So you kind of held on to that as you
Yes.
traveled into like North
Yes.
America, right? Talk to me a little bit about that.
Yeah, I knew that I was eventually going to move countries, and I was like, I'm going to do as many certifications as I can, just in case I need to like pull it out
Right.
for X
You
amount.
want to be
Or
ready.
again, in Australia, they train us to be like, get as many certs as you can so you can pull as many clients as you can.
Mm,
So just being able to have that like resume,
right.
if I went to apply and my resume looks bigger than someone else's, maybe I get the job.
Right.
Like that was pretty much like differentiating yourself as a trainer.
Yeah. Yeah. And then so how long after this did you end up in, because it wasn't LA first.
Yeah, it was Toronto. So then, so I started traveling and I was like, I want to move overseas.
Yeah.
And then I wanted to actually move to LA, but then a couple of my other friends were moving to Toronto at the time.
Okay.
And I was like, well, if I'm going to move overseas, I kind of want to do it with friends. And, I was just in a very YOLO state of mind at that time.
That's right. How old are you at this time?
25.
25. That's the YOLO stage.
Yeah, right?
For sure.
Yeah. And I was like, you're going cool. I'm coming with you.
Yeah.
Pack our bags.
Yeah,
Bye,
squad.
Mom.
You know what I mean? For sure.
Yeah.
So you end up in Toronto.
I ended up in Toronto and I actually got there and I was like, you know what? I'm not going to work in fitness for a second. I want to see if this is actually for me or if I just did it because I was good at it.
Okay. So what'd you end up doing?
Serving and hosting.
Okay.
Yeah.
Like
at
restaurant?
A restaurant. Yeah.
Okay.
Restaurant hospitality.
How did that lifestyle treat you?
That was hard. Talk about hustle straight away.
Yeah.
Fucking feet hurt. 10 hours
service.
standing.
Yeah. Food service is rough, isn't it? I mean, I didn't even do serving. I worked at my first job. I was 15. I worked at Universal. But same, we were on our feet for 8 hours. I was serving funnel cakes and stuff like that. And people get so hangry.
Yeah.
That I was like, I'm good. I'm not into food service.
No, I couldn't remember their orders. I just kept sending them free shots, just to like try and like.
No, they don't remember their order. Right?
Yeah. And I was like, free drinks on the house.
Yeah. And how long did you do that for?
About a year.
Okay.
Yeah.
And then you went right back to fitness?
Yeah. I was like, and then I went back into fitness. And I was like, oh yeah, this is me.
This is
like,
you.
This is, yeah.
So you knew. So, but that's good though. That's a good like piece of experience, right? You let me go test out some other waters. And then you went back and you were like, nah, I'm in the right space. Yeah. And so what was that like going back? Where did you go back to? Like, how did that start back up?
I started working in multiple boutique kind of boutique fitness studios.
Yeah.
And just kind of just starting to like, I guess, build myself in that city.
Yeah.
And then I was doing that for a while and that was good, but it was still like I wasn't sold on anything yet.
Right.
I actually got this offer. I don't think I don't think I've ever told you this, but I got an offer being an assistant fitness manager at a Good Life.
Okay.
Yeah. So I actually I was doing that and then I was actually doing the studio boutique fitness. And I was kind of like, these are two different paths. I don't know which one I want to do.
Yeah. So like, Good Life is more of a big box gym. Okay.
But I never really dived into like a management role.
Right.
And it was kind of like very similar to my old gym. Like I kind of felt like that was more familiar.
Yeah. So I felt more comfortable for you essentially.
Yeah.
Okay.
Like I kind of know that road, but it's exciting because it's a new role.
Right.
And then I was doing the studio boutique fitness thing and that was fun. That was good, but I don't know. I was just, again, not sold.
Yeah. What were you doing there? Like were you teaching classes or just
classes?
privates?
Yeah.
Okay.
Both.
Okay. What type of classes were you teaching at this time?
I was actually teaching some like dance fitness classes, kickboxing.
Yeah.
I don't really know much.
She can actually throw a pretty good kick. And we didn't even touch on this, but Lany is an amazing dancer. That's a big part of your history.
Yes. Yeah.
Right? Because I remember you showed me some type of, I forgot, you were in like the full dress thing. What kind of dance was it? I forgot.
Samba.
It was samba. Yeah. And I was like, that's you? You were like, yeah, that's me. I was like, that's crazy.
Multi-talented.
I know, just a little bit of everything. I need to see more of that on the IG too. You know what I mean?
Yeah, no, absolutely.
For sure.
So what happened? What was
so you're you're teetering between big box fitness and you're doing also boutique fitness a little bit. So keep going through that.
Oh yeah, like, TRX. I was doing like light boxing, like fitness kind of classes, like But it's so funny thinking about that now. Like I'm like, what was I doing back then? You know what I mean? Like
looking crazy with the mitts.
Like, like getting people to hold for other people as well. Like partner stuff. Just like
but like pure cardio boxing.
Yeah, cardio. Yeah, pure, straight cardio. Like 100 straight punches and 5 burpees.
For sure.
Switch.
Yeah.
That's
crazy.
Boot camps, TRX. Just literally.
Yeah, and at the same time you're doing the management, or you didn't take that role?
So I ended up taking that role.
Okay, so you're doing both.
I was doing the studio and then I got offered the management. But if I got the management, it was full time, and I would have
So
to
you had
cancel.
to let it go.
Yeah.
Okay. So you ended up taking it.
I ended up taking it.
What was that
Didn't
experience
last
like?
very long, like 3 months.
Oh,
Yeah,
really?
no
What
good.
happened? Can you talk about it?
Yes.
Okay.
I was the only female. Started fresh. Group of trainers. My manager was male. All the trainers were male. Every single trainer, male.
Right.
Which was fine. But again, I was like in these rooms where I had to, like, and also just walking in, getting management status and not like growing.
Right.
I think is also,
it's always a challenge.
It's hard to gain respect that way.
Yeah. And so what type of things were happening? Were they just not like listening? Well, first of all, was it a you thing? Do you think that maybe you didn't have the skill yet to like handle that role, or was it also a them thing where they just so what kind of things were occurring?
So my main role was to increase the personal training sales.
Right.
So I kind of had to like manage the trainers and try to get their goals to hit specific sale targets for personal training, and their packages were big. They were like 3 months, 6 months, 1 year packages. So not like a cute like 5-pack.
Yeah, ain't no 5-packs around here. Listen, I need you for 90 days. Okay. Okay.
Yeah, and I would try and like tell them what worked for me and try and get them how like figure out how to build their businesses and but within their structure and framework. And I just remember like leading these meetings, and I was like, none of you guys care what I'm saying.
Right.
You guys are all like,
they weren't open. Ding, 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 ding. Right. Cups full, basically.
Yeah.
Right.
And and I was like, this isn't fun. This is not fun.
Okay, so you
and again, I only do things I like to do things that I'm good at.
No, that is true. That is one thing I know about Lany, and we are going to talk a little bit about that because that is who you are, right? Like you chase what really like lights a fire for you, right? And so you are working this job 3 months in, you're like, this is not for me. So what happens? You go back to the boutique fitness, or
I go back to boutique fitness, and then I'm like, okay, I want to niche down or something. Right. I've been doing like a million things. I've tried this, tried that. And now I just want to try one thing and figure out what my niche is, because I didn't really know. Right. Like I was just good at everything.
Yes.
But not like great at anything.
Right.
So then I was like, all right, I'm going to go on ClassPass. I'm going to try out all these studios, do all these classes, and let's just see where it leads me.
Okay.
And then I found this like very small boxing studio, like probably like the size of this room.
Yeah. Do you remember what it was called?
Yeah, Studio KO.
Studio KO. Shout out to Studio KO. Yeah. Look at that. The start of something special.
Yeah. Okay. But yeah, it's pretty like a dark room, the trainer, has a microphone, loud music, just like 10 bags in the room, whiteboards underneath with combos, beginner combo, advanced combo, go around. That was it.
Yeah. Okay.
And I was like, this is so cool.
Lit you up, huh? Yeah. That sounds cool.
And then I became really connected with it, and I was like, oh, I want to do this. And so then I organized an energy exchange with the business, where I'll do like front desk work for free classes.
Oh, okay. You called that an energy exchange? Yeah. I've never heard that phrase before.
They don't do that anymore. Oh. But that was like a big thing in the fitness.
In the fitness space?
Yeah.
Okay. So
in Toronto it was. Maybe
that lets you know, Lany's depth of knowledge in this game. You know what I mean? Because I've never heard of that before. Energy exchange. I mean, in LA, have you ever heard of that in LA? Did they do that here?
I don't know. Maybe it became illegal or something because you're kind of working.
Essentially, but it's really essentially a barter.
It is a barter.
You're a barter.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
Exactly.
Yeah. But I can see LA making it illegal for sure.
But maybe like, again, like if you don't get paid for something, maybe you don't go to shifts, maybe you're late, like maybe professional.
Right. Depends on how they treat you. Like, do you have to come in if you're just bartering? Right. Yeah. I imagine
and you're not really that invested in the business because you're just there to like cover a shift. Yeah. It's not like.
Okay. So I imagine though, this time is like a really good learning experience, right? So do you know at this point, like I've found it?
It was more like not knowing. Yeah. I didn't know I found it.
No, you were just having fun.
I'm just starting.
Yeah, you're just having fun with it. You're thinking it's cool. Okay, so what happens next? Like, are you you're diving in? If I know Lance, and I think I did hear this. You start training more. You start diving in deeper into the training of it.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, yes. How does that first like piece of it go?
Because also like with my own health journey, I was also at the state of my life where I wasn't very healthy. I was like pretty like a little bit overweight. I tried multiple modalities to like lean down.
Yeah. Do you attribute that to anything particular? Like, was there something going on, or was it just you just didn't know how to live?
Yeah, unhealthy lifestyle. partying a lot,
Young, right? Yeah, yeah. You're in the
Aussies in
life.
Toronto,
That's right.
No, but I was always working out,
Yeah,
but it was just like maybe not pushing myself enough
right.
or
Not at the level you've
not at the
obviously reached nowadays.
exactly.
Understood.
So I started because I loved the way it felt.
Right.
And then I took
Boxing.
I know.
That's that.
It's the best.
I know. Okay, sorry, I don't mean to cut you off, but I feel you.
And I was talking to the owner, and I was like, I want to be a trainer here. And he was like, okay. And then he started training me for that. And in that process, I started writing down, class, like, we have to do homework and like write down class programming.
Yeah.
And I was writing down these combos, and then I'd show him my combos in my little notebook. And he was like, this makes no sense.
What is this?
And, Lany is like 1, 2, 2, 5, 6.
Right. Yeah, one. Slip. Like,
yeah.
For sure. So what is
slip, and jab. And I was like, well, what do you mean? Like,
yeah. I saw the numbers. I put them on the paper.
Yeah, this is a cute. Like, yeah.
Yeah.
And he's like, no, this doesn't make sense because this. And I had no idea what he's talking about. I'm like, okay, I need to like really dive deeper into like understanding the sport better and to understand the why, because again, I'm very much, one of my key values is education and like knowing what I'm talking about. And like if someone asks me a question and I'm the coach, like I need to know the answer.
Absolutely.
Otherwise I'm just like fake. Like,
and then you carried that with you throughout your career. Like you're very deep in wanting to learn more, and I was just, again, talking about this with Coach Lou. I just posted it today about like that beginner mindset. I feel like you've constantly kind of been there. Do you think that's just natural to you, or is that something you learned back in Brisbane with the education?
I've always loved learning.
Always.
Love learning. It's exciting. It's
fulfills you, I imagine.
Yeah.
Okay, so you start, you asked the owner to start training you.
Then we start training. Next minute we're sparring. It's a whole fucking thing. I start crying.
Yeah. Oh man, if you don't, I don't think I've ever shed a tear, but I'm sure I've felt like it.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. Talk to me about your first time sparring.
Yeah.
What you remember?
Yeah, no, I remember everything.
Remember everything?
Yes.
Okay.
We'll never forget that.
Talk to me about it.
So, the coach trains the trainers like once or twice a week.
Yeah, and this is all the trainers doing this?
Okay. And I'm like a new trainer, like I had to like earn my stripes, like
that's definitely not an LA thing. There is no way trainers are getting together and sparring.
Yeah.
You know what
legit.
I mean? Yeah, at least not at a boutique fitness spot. Maybe at like a regular.
No, they were about it.
Yeah, they were about that life.
And I was inspired by them because they were about it.
Yeah. And what year is this again? You said you're 25 around this time?
It's probably like 27 now.
27. So I imagine too that boxing is also still very new in the boutique space. And so what you're probably getting are a lot of former boxers now converting over, as opposed to like nowadays where you might have, some other modality trainer converting into a boxing coach, right? So that's probably what you were around, if I'm guessing. Okay, makes sense.
The owner was like an ex-pro fighter as well.
Understood.
Yeah. So then, headgear, mouthguard comes on. I'm like, what is like, I'm Dancer Lany. Like, I'm not.
I'm about to samba their ass off.
Like, at this point, I don't even know, defense,
right.
But, I'm like, yeah, sure. If they're doing it, like,
all about
I'm competitive, whatever.
Right.
And it was like all in type sparring. It wasn't like, okay, just jabs.
Right. Are you the only girl here?
No, that was actually all of us girls, one guy.
Oh, it was all girls and one guy.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. That's cool.
A bit of a flip.
Yeah.
Switch. Anyways, so, I'm getting hit, bang, bang, bang. And I'm like, how do I, like, how does this stop? Anyone gonna stop this? Yeah, I sucked. I didn't know how to defend myself.
Yeah, but that's, and looking back, I'm sure you realize now, like, that's absolutely normal part of the process.
Yeah, I'm kind of glad that was my entry into the sport, but I wouldn't recommend that for anyone that I coach or train.
You don't want to get your head,
because a lot of people wouldn't come back after that. I don't
Facts. It takes somebody special to be like, all right, I'll be back on Tuesday.
Yeah. Can't wait to do that again.
Love the blood. Okay, so you've obviously now it sounds like you're deep in it, right? Like once you agree to get punched in the face, for any length of time, you kind of and then go back the following week. You're kind of like, all right, like I like this sport.
Yeah.
talk to me a little bit about the next phase. So how
Mhm.
long did you stay at this club, and then what happens after this
Yeah.
club? Because obviously you moved on from there after that.
Yeah. So then just more politics within the fitness industry. They wanted me to only train boxing at their studio and nowhere else within a
Exclusivity.
exclusivity within a 2K radius, which is literally all of downtown Toronto. Like
Right,
it's a
which
small city.
basically is like where I live.
Yeah. So you're like, so I, yeah.
Yeah.
But me and my other friend, we used to teach this box and flow class that we kind of did on the side, and that started becoming really big. And we started actually posting this on Instagram, and they started knowing that I
Mm.
was doing side things, and they got really upset about it. But at this point, I'm like teaching 4 to 6 classes a week. I'm like,
Yeah.
you can't tell me I can't teach
Something I
elsewhere
learned. Yeah. And also
unless
something.
you're giving me full time, like unless you're giving me 20 classes a week or something.
Right. And one thing that's obviously true to you is like you've obviously had a very entrepreneurial spirit about you.
Mhm.
Because you were, you had your overhead when you were back in Brisbane. You're learning how to, run your business within the business. You go to Toronto, you start learning this modality, and now
Mm.
you've taken that modality and started running your own
Yeah.
classes. So that's
Yeah.
something that very
True.
true to who you are. Where do you think that piece of it comes from? Is that just something that you've always wanted to do? Have you always had this idea of like, I want my own brand, I want my own identity within whatever space I work in, or like, where does that come from?
I think it was coming. It came from working at the gym because we had to run our own business within the business,
Yeah.
which I never had a boss. I made all the decisions. I made my schedule. I made, how many clients I want to take.
Right.
I took vacay for
Yeah.
2 months whenever I wanted to.
Right. You're like, I'm out of here.
So,
Let me consult the boss. That's me.
yeah.
Yeah, for sure.
So definitely from that. Like I've
Okay.
never was employed.
Right.
I never experienced that. Oh yeah, like unless back in the days working at like KFC and stuff, but
Right.
not like
Lany at KFC. Who knew?
but no like sick time, no like that was very normal for me to be like, if I don't work, I don't get paid. Like there's no, sick leave or I don't know all the other
Yeah,
benefits of
PTO and all
employment.
that stuff.
Thank you. Yeah.
And so at this time, so it sounds like, politics kind of scooted you out. What is in your mind in terms of like your next phase and your idea? Like, what is your vision at this point for yourself and your brand?
Yeah. I was pretty devastated when that kind of came to an end because I really loved and I was starting to get good at it and like wanted to like dive deep into more. But lucky enough I, was networking in the space. Toronto is quite a small city and then the fitness industry is quite small where people know each other.
Right.
And this other woman opened a boxing gym and she was a female founding owner and it was like in the boutique space and she kind of really did a great job of bridging the gap of like boxing and then fitness.
Right.
So like really teaching fitness people fundamentals to actually learn the sport.
Okay.
So she opened and she recruited me and my friend who was teaching, his name's Jay, who was teaching the classes on the outsides with me before.
Right. The box and flow class.
Box and flow class.
Right.
Yes. And then so I got recruited to her boxing gym. And again, I'm like, I still am on this, like, I need to know more. I'm still fresh
Right.
in teaching boxing. And she wanted me to teach boxing. And she also did like 5 amateur fights.
Mm.
And so she was also a woman that I was already at a level that I haven't reached yet. So
Right.
it was also someone I was looking up to at the time.
Yeah.
And her coach was at the gym as well. And he ended up becoming my coach. And he's like an ex, world champion, Polish guy.
Right.
And this is where I learned what old school boxing.
Okay.
This is where I got that experience. So then I hired him as my coach and then he was running these boxing fight nights.
Yeah.
Yeah. Boxing fight nights and put me on the next one.
Yeah.
And I was like, all right, here we go. And
so you did, was it an exhibition?
Exhibition.
Nice.
Yeah.
Okay. Sick. So you did your exhibition.
Yeah.
You got to go dive into that. I got talk to me about it. Yeah.
Well, he was, very serious. He's like, if you're going to do it, we're going to do it.
Right.
Like you're fighting. And I was like, all right.
And old school coaches always want to gear you towards that. Like that's always kind of the pinnacle for them, right?
Yes.
Like that's just the mentality that they come from. If we're going to train towards this fight, right?
Exactly.
Yeah. Okay. So talk us through that. Your first fight. It's in Toronto.
It's in Toronto. Yeah, it's in Toronto. I invited like all of my clients, the gym, people in the fitness space. So like a lot of my peers, a lot of people I really care about. And like my mindset going into this is like, if everyone's coming, because I had to sell tickets. That's right. I had to sell like heaps of tickets and I had to sell a table.
Okay.
So I'm like, if I'm like selling these tickets,
Just the constant hustle with Lonzo.
I'm like, can I just fight? Like, do I have to go and try and sell all these tickets as well?
You got to be trainer. You got to be trainer. You got to be promo. Yep. You got to be fighter. Yeah, I feel you.
And then, but yeah, long story short, took the fight. I won. Nice. Everyone was there. It was an amazing time. And after that was when I realized, oh, this is what I'm doing.
Yeah.
I became like,
that had to be very validating for you too, right? Because you're in it. I imagine you went through a real like rigorous camp, right? Yeah. And not only did you go through a rigorous camp, it's not like you're 100% a fighter, right? So you're working at the time, like you're so you have to be all in, committed to go into this fight. You do the fight, you win the fight.
And I was going all in. Like I was watching boxing movies every night. I was writing in my journal after training. Like I did my whole programming myself.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, you're talking about your training regimen?
My training camp.
So like he was doing what, like your bag work, mitt work, stuff like that. Yep. And then you kind of did your own like periodization outside of that?
Yeah, I did like my running and all that jazz.
Yeah, what a savage though. You know what I mean? You're like, I'm just going to design my own training camp for my first fight.
Pretty much.
Yeah.
I was like, does this look good? He's like, yeah. Like,
yeah,
cool.
That's sick though. That's cool.
Yeah.
Okay, so after the fight, is it safe to say that this is truly where like Trained by Lany as we know it was probably born, like in terms of like the boxing side of things? Could you
everything.
Yeah.
Branding to boxing to niching to, I guess, finally feeling established and finding my niche and finding like my new purpose in the fitness space.
Okay.
Yeah.
And then after this, or is it shortly after this, you arrive in LA?
Yes. So then at this gym, the female founder, her name's Callie, she was a Puma trainer. And at this time, Puma were recruiting trainers in Canada.
Okay.
She put my name in. I ended up becoming a Puma trainer. And then that also was a big pivotal moment.
Yeah. Talk to me about that process, because, you know, I'm not somebody with sponsorships, but obviously I know you've had sponsorships. For coaches who, you know, that want sponsorships, or what is that process like? What is it to get a sponsor? What process did you have to go through? And then what did it do for you just in your brand?
Yeah, for sure. There's so many different ways to get, I guess, connected. So a lot of a lot of brands will reach out, or it's about someone that you know that's already within the circle of the brand. So for me, I was in the network because my boss was already there and she referred me. So that's how I got into Puma. But like with other brands, like with BoxRaw, I reached out to them. I was following them for ages and I was like, this is like so in alignment with me.
It aligns, right?
I'm like, I need to like partner with them somehow.
For sure.
And I literally just DM'd them.
Okay.
I was like, hey, love what you're doing. I need to be a part of this. Like if you're doing a campaign, I would love to shoot with you guys. Like whatever you need.
Yeah.
And then they didn't reply, and they replied a couple of weeks later. And then I eventually did my first campaign with them. Then after that, I was
with BoxRaw or with
BoxRaw.
With BoxRaw, okay.
And then I got interviewed with them, and they were like, long story short, a couple of weeks later, they were like, we want to partner with you. You're going to be our first ever partner.
Okay.
And I was like,
that's sick.
Yeah.
But, you know, again, going back to like you, Lons, and why it's so important to have you on this like podcast, but beyond the fact that like we're homies, you know what I mean? But beyond that, because I think you've been very intentional. I said this before we hopped on, like you've been very intentional about the things that you want to do. Like you said, when something lights a fire for you, like you're very good at pursuing it and going after it. And you know, and it sounds like you went from like this kind of inch deep and a mile wide philosophy when you were coming in from Brisbane to like, I want to go, you know, an inch wide and a mile deep. And so that you kind of carried that philosophy. So you went with Puma. After the Puma thing is when you came to LA?
Yes.
Okay.
So that's how I met Kyle. That's how I got linked with Box Union.
How did that happen? I know he kind of told me, was that an event?
Yes. So Puma flew all their trainers to Miami for like a big trainer event.
Okay.
Flew us up, put us up 3 nights.
How cool is that?
So cool.
That sounds sick.
I was like, I am.
You're like, I did it. Yeah.
I made
Mama,
it.
we made it. I feel you.
They pick us up in those like big black cars from the airport. And like, I'm like, dude, I'm in America.
Right.
Like not on my dollar. This is like my first trip.
Where was that? Was it that in LA or was it somewhere else?
That was in Miami.
In Miami.
Put us up in the Mondrian. Everything paid.
Was that your first time to Miami too?
That wasn't my first time.
She was like, nah, boy, I've been there. Okay. So you meet Kyle at this event.
Yeah, I met Kyle and then 2 other trainers, Chris and Deja.
Yeah.
And obviously they were so cool, and they they told me they will work together. They said they boxed to the beat, and then they showed me like a little demo, and I was like, hey, if you guys are doing it, I'm sold on you as people.
Yeah,
Like I'm gonna keep that in my head.
for sure. For sure.
Like,
So not something you immediately jumped on, but something you were kind of like, oh, that's good information. Like
yeah,
maybe we head out there.
yeah.
Okay. So you leave the Puma event. How do you actually end up in
That like brought up a lot of confidence after that.
right?
Yeah.
Okay.
I was like, I feel, I guess, yeah, I don't know what the word is, like known,
Yeah, yeah.
like established, I guess.
Established. Yeah, yeah. You knew at that point you were kind of making a good name for yourself.
Yes,
Yeah, I
but
mean,
from an outside.
well, even when that happened, because I was there already. I was at BU at the time, and I had heard about you. You know what I mean? And they were
Yeah.
like, and I came from a very similar thing, right? Where I was a coach at a smaller gym, and when I came on, it was like, oh, big, because they were really at that time looking for boxing coaches, right? People
Mhm.
that can box and had good technique.
Right.
And so, yeah, I remember hearing, yeah, we met this girl in Miami. She's sick with, they were
Yeah, yeah,
they were hyping it up. So,
yeah.
even
Right.
at that time, unbeknownst to us, right, I
Hmm.
was hearing about Coach Lany, trained by Lany at the
Yeah.
time in my, all the way in LA.
It's so crazy.
Yeah, it's just amazing times. So we get out to LA.
I hit them up. I'm like, hey, I want to audition.
So you made the decision.
Yeah, I reached out again. I'm reaching out. Hey, I want to audition. Well, actually, I didn't know what audition
What the
was.
process
So I
was.
said I want to apply.
Right.
I want to apply. Yeah, I want to apply. Is there any like jobs available? And that's when they invited me to the training.
Right.
Well, I did a video submission, and then they invited me to training.
Okay. Yeah. And that was a whole process for you, right?
Yeah.
Because did they fly you out temporarily for that?
No, I flew out on my own dollar.
You flew out on your own dollar.
Yep.
And was that like an official move, or you were
No,
just
that was like
testing it out and
just
seeing if it was going to happen?
yeah, that's test it out.
Okay. So
Audition, 6-week audition. I was like, what the hell is a 6-week audition? Like,
right.
do you see my resume?
Right. You're like trained by Lany. Okay. So obviously you get that job. You know what I mean? And obviously that's where we first
Mhm.
met. So we
Yeah.
met at BU. I think I assisted with your training
Yeah,
program
absolutely.
quite a bit, right?
They like compared, well, not compared, but they were like, you need to work with Justin.
Yeah.
He's going to help you.
Yeah.
Because I think they put us in that category.
Yeah, I mean, that was the
Yeah.
thing, right? Again, I'd come from, a more traditional boxing gym. You obviously had an incredible boxing background. And so we just aligned in that way. And that's why I always rocked with Lany too, because for me, it was always a challenge. And it's funny because AJ talked a lot about this, right? When you come from the boxing world into boutique fitness, especially when they're doing boxing,
Mhm.
Self-admittedly, and this is maybe not right of me, but there's always that thing in the back of your head, like I box, they don't box, like who do I connect with at that point, And so obviously we really connected on that fact. We just love boxing, and we
Yes.
could look at each other and we just know, like, oh no, they really did that. You know what I mean? She's been
Mhm.
punched in the face before I could see
Yeah,
it,
yeah.
right? You can tell those things.
Yeah, for sure.
And of course, over time I've learned, and I think we both learned, like, there's so many facets to boutique fitness that, yeah, it's great to know how to box, but you have to learn so much more.
So much more.
Again, AJ spoke very well to that. I thought was just incredible. But with that being said, you spent a lot of time there. You were a coach, not only a coach, a head coach. We both made it all the way into corporate,
Mhm.
right?
Mhm.
But then you made a decision.
Mhm.
You decided, like, I want to go back to building my brand
Mhm.
and doing my thing. Can you talk me a little bit through that time? Because we've had like some conversation, but never really a deep dive into like what you were thinking, what was going on in your mind. And I think this is important because it takes a lot of guts to
Mhm.
want to say, like, I'm going to leave the safety of a corporate position
Mhm.
and then go do my thing. So talk to me
Mhm.
a little bit through your mindset, what was happening, and then what was that planning like to make that exit and really go start again building the Trained by Lany brand.
Yeah. So obviously like I started very like fresh when I came to LA, like just coach. And then, I really looked up to you guys and saw, the levels in which you can grow within this company. And I automatically was like, okay, I want to be a master coach. Like I want to go up this ladder and this chain. And then like you said, went to head coach and then eventually manager of programming. And I think I really loved that how much I was learning throughout the entire process, and that constant up level. Like it was definitely challenging all the way through. I don't think
Yeah.
there was ever a time where I was like chilling.
Right. Definitely a lot learned though. It was such a learning process because at the end of the
Yeah.
day, we were really with a startup
And
company.
yeah, we went from, digital as well.
Yeah.
Digital, that whole, like, let's not forget that.
Woo, let's not forget about that. Let's double back to that part of the process because also that's a big piece of what you do nowadays too, right?
Right. Yeah.
So obviously 2019 going into 2020, pandemic hits,
Mm.
and I reference this period of time a lot because not it shifted our culture and our industry quite a bit,
Yeah,
especially in LA.
fully.
Like a lot of things started to open back up, like restaurants and stuff like that. But we were always kind of on the back end of that. Like
Yeah.
they don't want us in the gym. Um, and so what ended up happening was we pivoted, started a digital platform,
Mhm.
which Lonnie and I both ended up on and did some amazing things for.
Mhm.
What were you feeling at that time when the pandemic hit? Like, because here you are from Australia via, well, from Toronto at this point, but
Yeah.
via, from
Yeah, still an
Brisbane,
Australian. Yep.
and you're here for fitness.
Dude, I was like, what the hell is
I
happening?
remember us having conversations back then. You're like, dude, like, but yeah, talk me through it.
Well, I moved, I think, after all the auditioning process and getting my visa and stuff. It was December where I officially moved to LA, and this happened in March. So, like 3 months later. So this is
Right.
just as soon as I just started to get the ball rolling a little bit with actually teaching classes, building people coming to classes. And
Yeah.
then we were doing a photo shoot that day, and then everyone's like, it's closed down.
Right.
And, we didn't know if it was 2 weeks or.
Yeah. Originally, it was
Originally, it
supposed
was
to
2
be,
weeks.
yeah, oh, yeah, 2 weeks, stop the spread. Didn't work.
Nope.
Nah.
And then it got serious. And then, then we had I think a group meeting or group call where we're like, all right, we're going to pivot onto digital. All the coaches submit, and we're going to see who's going to be a digital coach.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
And I remember talking to you, actually. I was like,
Right.
oh, are we going to be okay?
Well, remember it because we had to do these auditions. We had to audition.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And
Yeah.
mind you, at the time I was doing really well with classes. I was selling out classes, and I respected that. They had to do that, right? They
Yes,
had to
keep it
give it up.
fair.
Yeah, they had to give everybody an opportunity to say let's give the best, shot to
Yeah.
whoever shows us what they can do. So they made us audition, but we had to go through it. I remember I hopped a fence
Yeah.
over at Marshall High School, which I lived in Los Feliz at
Yeah.
the time, so I can have a place to do my audition
Yeah,
video.
your little set.
Yeah, because I needed
Yeah.
a place that I could feel comfortable
Totally.
doing something I had never really done before. But I remember that. Yeah, it was a crazy time.
And I remember talking to you like, I don't know, but if I want to keep my job, I'm going to fucking kill this audition. And I
I'm
was
gonna
like,
do it.
okay, me too. I took it very seriously because I don't think we even knew how many coaches were going to be hired for this.
Right.
So yeah, for me, it was and I was the newest coach. I think I was literally the newest coach. So I'm like,
Yeah.
I'm not fucking getting this.
Yeah, you're like, and
People are
I'm
gonna-
out of here.
Yeah. But yeah, did an audition video in the back, with the trash can in the back.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Welcome. My name is Lany. 10-minute shadow boxing, and none of us knew anything about how to
Digital. Yeah.
do an intro, how to teach on camera, what to think about.
No.
But anyway, we got hired.
Yes, we
We
did.
kept our jobs.
We did keep our jobs. We earned them. You
Yep.
know what I mean?
Yeah.
We earned them.
And then and then we learned how to teach on screen.
Yeah.
And then that became a whole new business.
Yeah, I mean, again, I talked to Lo about this, and it really was such an educational time, right? I think at the time we learned a lot about ourselves, right, and just how we react to such a big event.
Mhm.
But then also, we learned a lot on just technicals, like how to be on camera. It's so different
Yep.
than teaching a class. In a class, you can be a lot more efficient because there's so much more engagement.
Mhm.
When you're on camera, you are the
Totally.
engagement.
Yep.
You know what I mean? You have to be everything on
Yeah.
camera. So yeah, it was such a interesting learning experience
Interesting learning
for us.
experience.
But yeah, and then we start to obviously come out of pandemic. We're working.
Mhm.
Again, and then we take on a big role because they purchased Title
Right,
at the
right.
time. So we take on more corporate role.
Yes.
But yeah, take me into,
Yeah.
obviously
Fast forward.
fast forward a little bit.
Fast forward, doing multiple things, trying to also do my creative projects and endeavors on the side. And I got to a point where I was just so burnt out. And again, I don't have much employment experience of being employed by other people. So this was also a big learning curve for me of learning how to talk to managers, learning how to stand up for myself, learning how to negotiate, learning boundaries and how to communicate and express myself. And yeah, I just got to a point where I was like, I am so burnt out trying doing all the things. And because I was also, again, trying to do like creative stuff on the side.
Yeah.
And it just got to a point where I was like, I kept losing my voice. Um, I was tired. I was literally looked at my body and I was like, I don't even work out, but I'm just so lean
Yeah.
based on like, I think just running on adrenaline and
Right.
just having, multiple coffees a day and energy drinks.
Yeah.
And then I got to a point where I was like, I can either drop a couple of things and try and rearrange this, or it's like a legit, here's another pivot.
Right.
But I'm someone who always says yes to opportunities. Now I'm kind of learning not to always say yes to every single opportunity, but I always say yes to try and figure out what that feels like and not live with any regret of like, I wonder what would have happened if I said yes to that.
Right.
So I was always like, yes, I'll do it. I'll do this. I'll do this. Yeah, sure. But then obviously it led to like learning more about yourself and like how you like to work and what are your strengths and what you want to dive into. And at that time, I was like, this isn't how I want to live. This isn't the lifestyle I want to live. I'm very much more like I like intense like bouts of work, like 2-3 hours, and then I just need to chill and then I'll come back. And I like
Right.
to be creative. And it was not hitting any of those
Those
things.
points for you.
Yeah,
Yeah.
like just computer work. Like I don't know how people do it, but I
Oh,
just
I'm with you. Yeah, and that is a
you
that is
know?
a big transition, right?
Yeah.
People don't really think about that, especially in our industry.
Yeah.
Where like, as coaches, we always, I think I heard the phrase years ago, but somebody told me we live a counterculture, meaning,
Mm.
when most people are working, right, we're off,
Yes.
right? And then when most
Yes.
people are
Yep.
off, we're working. So we work
Mhm.
counter to the normal culture.
Yep.
So then to do that and then go into the actual culture as opposed to the counterculture, it's a
Mhm.
challenge. It really does take either a reset, and some people do it very well. I think I'm very similar to you in the fact that like I don't work best like that, right?
Yeah.
I'm a very like intense bout to work as myself, and then I need something to kind of like take my mind away, and then I can kind of recenter and go back to it when the time is right. But that's how I get my work done.
Yes.
And I didn't know that much about you in terms of your past too. So I didn't know about like the you kind of always working for yourself. So
Yes.
it's even more of a
Yeah.
challenge at that point.
It's a big challenge. And
But yeah, so you finally make that decision.
yeah, I was like, this isn't me. Doesn't feel like the way I want to work or like live my life. And something's got to change. And I got just to a state where I was like, yes, something's going to change. And I'm just going to, you know what? I'm just going to fuck it. I'm going to take a risk. I'm going to bet on me. If I put so much of the same energy into this company, I put it into my own brand. Like I have faith that that will be enough
Right.
and that will make me happy and, all that jazz. I really follow my heart on
Yeah.
like every life decision, not so much my brain, but not so much as I like bounce to different countries for no reason. So very much a passion heart follower,
Yeah.
and I was like, yeah, I'm gonna bet big, I'm gonna take a risk. And even at this point I'm like, I'm willing to like lose it all. Like I just know that this isn't for me and I can't keep
You
living.
basically were all in betting on yourself at this
Yeah.
point. Yeah. Yeah. And that's an interesting point to be at. But I feel that. I feel that. And so take me into, because I think one of the big things and about your story is obviously I've watched you build this amazing brand, and you've done so much since you left the company. You're like with your brand. I mean, you're putting out amazing content, you're working with some great like people, Jesse, for example, right? Like you're working I've seen you just meticulously, partner and work, right?
Yes.
So once you leave the company, what is the mindset like first day out, right? You're like, okay, that's over.
Yeah.
Now I have to go do this, and take me into like the realities of that work on the back end, because now you're back to running your own business again, trained by
Oh,
Lany.
so good.
Yeah. So
I just love control.
Yeah, you got it all back.
I
Huh?
need to, I'd rather be the boss of my own. Yeah.
Yeah. Be in charge. I
Be in
always like be the
charge.
captain of your own
Yeah.
entrepreneurship. You know what I mean?
My choices. Everything's my choices. So everything I do is because I love to do it and it's intention and it's purposeful. And obviously there's things that we don't love to do, like, background admin work or, stuff like that.
Yeah, all the necessities.
All the necessities. Right. But yeah, just building, going back to full-time, like personal training.
Yeah.
Collaborating with other trainers, working with other multiple brands, and also like painting a very clear vision of my brand now, like who I am, what my mission is, what kind of content I want to put out, how I want to make an impact, and what does that look like, 1, 2, 3 years from now.
Right.
I still don't have a super clear vision, but my goal is to continue to build, my social presence for the next year and see how far I can go with that. And
For
then I
sure.
would love to produce some type of product and or service that's going to help impact my followers to, impact
Understood.
their
So
training.
start giving them value adds, and
Yeah.
essentially monetize, right? But
Yes,
through obviously adding to your customer base and followers.
exactly.
Um, now, again, going back to your, social media and all the things that you've been doing there, I was just having this conversation with Jess, like
Yep.
when somebody pops up on your social media feed, it can seem very overnightish, right? Because
Yeah.
you've never, you
You
don't
don't
know
see,
them.
right. You
All of
don't
a
see
sudden
the
they go
behind the,
viral and you're like, who's this person that just randomly popped up on my screen? But the one thing I know about you, again, is that you've been very intentional. It is a lot of effort and hard work that you're doing.
right.
Can you take me through, without giving away any trade secrets, but
Yeah.
like just kind of your process? Like, how do you think through your content? How many hours are you spending on content roughly? Like, what are
Mhm.
the realities of that work? Because you don't get to where you're at by accident.
Right. You definitely, like, this is the world now. This time is now social media forward. Like, even being on like recruitment, like being in recruitment, like when I recruit trainers for Fit Lab, like I'm recruiting from Instagram.
Right.
Like, if you're not representing yourself on Instagram, you could easily be missed.
Right.
Like, Instagram's your resume. It is your portfolio. It's your experience. Shows you who you are and what you do.
Yeah.
And once I started getting all these brands DMing me and reaching out, I'm like, okay, I must be doing something right. And I just, again, think it's all about niching.
Right.
Um,
Have you ever regretted
yeah.
the niche down?
Now I'm kind of, okay, so I had a goal for myself when I really started diving into like Instagram and I guess trying to establish myself in LA. I was like very specific. I'm like, if someone is looking for a female boxing fitness trainer, I want my name to be like on the top of the list. Like, if someone just has a conversation with someone in the fitness team, be like, oh yeah, I know this girl, Lany, or, I was like, that is my goal. And then I kind of felt like I got to this point where I was like, I think I've achieved this goal, because I started getting, other big brands, other on-screen kind of apps and other opportunities reach out to me directly for boxing,
Right.
or for that modality, and even other people from other countries. And I guess walking into gyms, like I was at the boxing retreat in Bali, and I was just doing random classes, and there was this girl was like, hey, you're Lany,
Right.
trained by Lany, and she was like Russian. And
That's
then
so sick.
and I'm like, wait, what?
Yeah.
Like, I'm, I don't know, just stuff like little like synchronicities like that.
Yeah.
Like, I'm like, oh shit,
Let you know your outreach is
I'm
working.
doing something. I'm doing something.
Yeah.
Well.
Absolutely. And obviously a lot of your content is like you training.
Yes. You
And
got to
so,
take footage of training all
yeah.
the time.
Well, I think what I'm even more impressed by is just like your willingness to go to a Bali. And I think I might have said Thailand
Bali.
in our message, but it's Bali or Bali. And talk to me a little bit about like how you decide to go find who's going to educate you, because you're at this point very educated yourself, right? You're an exercise science and nutrition major. You've been in the ring.
Yeah.
You've taught this in 2 countries, essentially, maybe 3 at this point. Who knows?
Right.
So talk to me a little bit about how you find your educators and like how important that process is to you and your growth, and also content, whatever.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, it depends on like, obviously like where I'm at and what I'm doing. But like, even for boxing, like you were that for me.
Right.
You were my mentor, in terms of like experience and performance and motivation and speaking. Like, you like really impacted me through that.
Yeah.
And actually AJ was actually he actually really helped me on the Instagram game
Right.
as well. Like, I remember first collaborating with him, and then I learned a lot of like how he does it and how he sets up his tripod and like the vibe and entertainment value.
Yeah. And he's a great entertainer.
Yeah.
I mean, he does
He's
it.
the best.
Does it so well.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Honestly, I found Luke Howard, who is the coach who ran the Bali boxing retreat. He's also Australian.
Yeah.
Just found him on Instagram, all educational content. I was like, yes. He made an offering, and I was like, yeah,
I'm there.
Sign me up.
How much and you don't have to answer this question, but I'm curious to know, how much do you spend on educating yourself as a coach? Like roughly, like if you could give a percentage maybe.
I mean, I've always had a coach.
Yeah.
Forever.
Yeah.
There's no time where I'm not being coached by someone.
Absolutely.
So I'm always trying to better myself through one-on-one.
Yeah.
Training and education. Yeah.
And that's been a big reoccurring theme for the coaches that I've had on so far, is this willingness to get educated. Because I think, at a certain point, and I think it's almost inherent in just who we are as our industry, right? We're the coaches. So like you're constantly expected to know it all because you're the coach. And I think some people buy into that, where it's like, well, now I have to know everything.
Yeah.
And, and even going into this year, I've told myself, like, I got to knock all the ego out the door. I got to go back to a beginner's mindset, right? And that's just the way that I've approached the year so far. But that's exactly what you are. You're like, I always want to be educated. I always want to be a beginner. I always want to be, I heard, who is it? Coach Eddie recently said, he said a white belt for life. That was his thing. You know what I mean? And I was like, I respect that. Like, I understand what he's saying.
Yeah,
so
forever student.
Forever student. Yeah. And that seems to be like a reoccurring theme for you. You're constantly like, I want to be a student in this game.
Yeah. And you can learn from everyone and anyone.
Right.
From a beginner client to when you're sparring someone who's just sparred for the first time. You learn from them. You learn from pros. You learn from, people you work with. Always. Yeah.
Yeah, for sure. For sure. Yeah. I mean, listen, amazing. Like, again, I think you've been just like very intentional, just impressive, like work online. You know what I mean? Obviously, the Bali trip looked mad cool.
Yeah, it was really cool.
Yeah. Really cool. And talk to me a little bit just about that, because I was curious to know, like, what did you guys do there? Like, was that your first boxing retreat or like,
yes,
or combat?
First boxing retreat.
Yeah.
Which is just so cool.
Yeah, I mean, that's cool.
Literally, you train twice a day.
Okay.
Everyone stays within the same like villa. So we all like chill by the pool during the day. We wake up 6 a.m., go train, chill at the gym. If you want to shoot content, you can stay there. At the gym, they have like sauna, cold plunge, like strength conditioning area, ring, bags, like big, but it's hot. Yeah, I'm very sensitive.
Southeast Asia.
Yeah. So you're like dehydrating at the same time. Anyways, so then you train, chill by the pool, eat, relax, get back into the gym and train again.
Yeah, and it was 2 weeks?
1 week.
1 week.
1 week straight.
Yeah, it must have been feeling nice though when you got back to the stateside.
Yes, yeah, right? The normal temperature.
Yeah, normal temperature, also super decompressed. I mean, you've been doing all this training, cold plunges, saunas, all that stuff. Yeah.
But it's so nice just being I guess the student again, and not being the coach and not having to be turned on and someone else is like coaching you,
right? And
being in a group where everyone is like there for the same purpose and reason.
Yeah,
yeah.
And then you have those like aha moments, right? Like as you learn new things, you're like, oh, that's cool. Like you know, it's a fun place to be.
Yeah,
for sure. I guess the one thing I want to know, obviously, this is your coach's coach. So with that being said, as far as like where you see opportunities for up and coming coaches, right? Coaches that are still learning something, whether the niche down thing, like what is your advice to coaches right now in this new like day and age, right? I think you gave a big piece of that, which was like, social media forward.
Yeah.
But do you have any other advice for like coaches out there across the country, especially ones that don't live in LA, maybe ones coming from Brisbane, just like you one day?
Travel to LA, come here for a fitness trip. Do as many classes as you can. You will learn a lot. I also did a lot of trips just taking class.
Yeah.
And just learning from the best. Especially with the group fitness scene, if you want to be like a great group fitness instructor, like obviously we know one thing is like performance. And then obviously another thing is education and like knowing how to coach people, whatever you're teaching.
Right.
And I think if you can combine both, you can really be great and set yourself apart.
Right. And
obviously being in LA, like such a competitive industry, and city, like everybody's and their mom
on it.
Is a group fitness instructor.
Yeah.
So I think from my lessons is obviously trying to set yourself apart, but you already are. You're uniquely you. We're also
That's so sweet, actually. I was saying you're uniquely you. Yes,
Yeah,
yeah, but it's so true.
but
You are
leaning into
you.
that.
Yeah,
Yeah, leaning into that, and just really, and being able to connect with people.
right.
I think that is like a really big thing, and being professional. If you can be educated and have like a performance type
Yeah, what do you mean by professional?
professional, I'm
Yeah,
talking early to classes, um, like being on meetings from your house,
yeah. Right.
brushing your hair,
Yeah,
looking presentable,
right,
um, writing emails back, writing to group messages back.
right.
Like that goes a long way. I feel like in the industry now, people are looking for professionalism as well, which can also set you apart. If you're a great trainer and someone else is a great trainer, but you're a great trainer and you're professional, you're also straight away, you're set apart. Like I would want to hire someone who's professional and a great trainer.
Right.
Like I almost think professionalism could almost outbeat talent.
Yeah, I'd say 9 out of 10 times I'll take hard work over talent, right?
Mhm.
Because typically if talent doesn't work hard, it gets sloppy.
Yeah, it's
Um,
short term.
yeah, it's short term. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? Now, when talent works hard, you got to go with that every time, right?
Right.
That's a whole different
Yes.
monster. And I think one thing I want to add to that
Yeah.
is just living the lifestyle of a professional. That's why I asked you what that is, because I think you hit some great topics. But one thing that I learned from you, Lance, right, is like living like a professional, like a fitness professional, right?
Mhm.
Which comes with educating yourself, right? The nutrition, the kind, like you working out so that you can go do your job later,
Yes.
right? Those are things that I think
Right.
a lot of up and coming trainers don't know. And, I think we probably both have been there at some point where you almost start to burn out because you're not living
Mhm.
outside of your profession like the professional
Yeah.
you should be. Right. And so that's one thing that I think I took most away from like Lons and a couple of other, other coaches as well, but like living like a
Mm.
fitness professional. It's like we look at like Mayweather, for example,
Right.
and he did it at the highest level. But you hear
Mhm.
stories about him outside of the gym or
Mhm.
outside of the ring, and he's the constant professional. Ate right, always running, always in the
Mhm.
gym. Right, he
You
lived
have
like
to.
that. You have to.
Otherwise, you're not gonna be able to show up
No, it's going to be short term.
or inspire others or motivate
Yeah,
if you're not motivated or inspired yourself.
right.
And networking.
Networking.
I feel like that is quite a big strength of mine, but unintentionally.
Yeah, yeah,
Um, but being out in the field and knowing other trainers and working with other trainers,
right.
I think is
Yes.
super important.
Yeah, Lonnie is definitely a master networker. She knows everybody. You know what I mean? It's like, oh yeah, I met them.
But yeah,
Um,
it's just great to be surrounded by people who are just like you
yeah,
know, and it helps keep you on track too.
yeah, for sure. Yeah, and I mean to that point, like and I think we're running out of time here, but I think the big thing that I'm learning even just through the podcast, right, is
Mm.
just like people are so willing to help. And you kind of mentioned this, right, when you were talking about your trips to LA and seeing everybody so willing to like help you
Yes.
along. Um, and so two things I'm going to say on this was number one, being willing to put yourself out there. That's what Lon has done very well, right? Like,
Mhm.
there's something about, putting yourself online that it's a scary thing,
Yeah.
self-admittedly, right? But like that willingness to do it. And I think I'm inspired by people like you and Shark Strong and AJ, right? Who are doing that constantly. You guys put out content that is like inspiring. I think that's why you guys all have such great followings is because you're willing to put yourself out there. And then
Yeah.
on top of that, the entertainment value, the educational value is all there.
Right.
But then also, again, going back to that first point, which is people are so willing to help, right? Like, I mean, even talking through the podcast recently, Shark Strong hit me up after our podcast. He was like, "Oh, here's some tips for you," and he has a great following.
Nice.
And so I think if you can do all those things, live the professional life as well as um, put yourself in a position to be,
Mhm.
helpful, add value, but also be in a position that others can add value to you, right?
Yes.
Networking is such
Networking.
it is so valuable.
And like share what you want to do because someone could know how to make that happen for you.
Absolutely.
Mhm.
Absolutely. Well, listen, we run out of a little bit of time. I know.
No.
Oh, we're gonna do it again. We're just getting warmed up.
Meow.
We're just getting warmed up,
Yeah.
So, but I think it was so important to hear your story, Lons, because
Mhm.
I think you have an amazing story. And I told you when I first asked you to be on this podcast, I was like, I think it's just so cool that
Mhm.
you're from Australia. You came out here. I've grown up in LA. right? And so I always am so impressed when I see people come from other countries, other states, and how they attack this city,
Right.
right? Like this city is not easy. I've seen people come in for a year, and if you don't make it the year, I know you're going home.
For sure.
And so to see you come in and come from Toronto and then come here and just like all the work we got to do together. I mean, we did
Yeah,
some really cool stuff
we
together,
did.
right? We've had some really great
I
times and great work
know.
together. And we've gone through it. We've been in the trenches together. We've been,
Sure have.
yeah, we've been, on the highest mountains together. Well, not even
Right.
the highest mountains yet, but so far.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely.
Um, and then again, just to watch you
Mm.
kind of like do your thing in this industry, like
Mm.
I'm inspired by you, Lons. Like
Mm.
like just so motivated by you, especially like right here in this time. And so that's why it was so important for you to just be on here because I hope, they are
Yeah.
inspired like I am through your story, through your journey.
Mhm.
You have so much, value that you add to this game. And again, on top of it all, like you're just one of the best fitness professionals that I know. Like, I mean,
Aw.
you live, and I talk to Ritz about you all the time. Like, dude, she's about that life. Like, you know what I mean? Like, she gets busy
Just
out here.
fucking running around.
Yeah, doing the damn thing. But
Yeah,
that's what like when you want it, if you want it, you got to
yeah,
go get it. Right. And so,
absolutely.
like, you're a testament to that. And I know you're going to go on to do so, like,
Mm.
so many amazing things.
Aw.
But, anyways, I just want to thank you for, obviously joining me on the show. Tell everybody if they don't already know, most of them probably already do, but you never know who hears this. Tell them
Right.
where they find you, all the social media, whatever. Let them know how do they get connected.
Okay.
Of
Well, firstly, actually, thank you so much for having me. I'm honestly honored. Like,
course.
I still do get very nervous, like telling my story and not thinking that it is of value or is inspiring or motivating in any type of way. So thank you for always believing in me and wanting to know more.
Of
So I
course.
appreciate that.
Of course.
Um, Instagram, trained by Lany, Lany, not Lanny, Lany.
It's Lonnie. Yes, I know, and I call her Lons. Don't go
No,
look for
I like
Trained by Lon.
lines. No, I
I know. I'm
like
just
it.
saying, don't look
Oh,
for Trained
okay.
by Lons. It's
Oh,
Trained by
okay. Yeah,
Lonnie.
trained by Lany. But yeah, feel free, DM me. I'm always here.
Yeah, for
Yeah.
sure. Well, thank you so much, Lons. I
Thank
appreciate you. We're
you.
gonna do it again. I promise, because we got more.
We got
We
more.
got more. There's so much more. All right, y'all. Anyways, thank you for tuning in to this episode of Your Coach's Coach. Hopefully, love that story and love kind of the gems that she's dropping and the things that she's doing. Again, follow her on social media. For us, like, subscribe, share, do the whole nine. And, can't wait to see you guys on the next episode. I appreciate you all. Thank you.
Bye.
Peace.